And we're live.
In 5, 4.
I still got a countdown. I said we're live.
Well, I found the opening to this episode already.
So, with that said, I'm still going to do this damn countdown. Because I am bound and determined.
Tradition.
5, 4, 3, 2, for tradition, 1. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. This is your weekly dose of Geek Tavern Radio. I am Dax, and like always,
I am Shill.
I am the Mike Bundy, 316.
Oh, wow. We had to throw an adjective at the front of his name. He needs a title declaration now. He's the Mike Bundy. Like, there's only one.
Well, there's two on Twitter because I don't remember my old password.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, I really liked how good of a start, the enthusiasm, there's lightning in the air, and that could more so be because we actually hit over 300 downloads.
Right? I am so excited about that. So let's just start. Thank you, listeners, for the support that you have given us. It's great to know that there are folks out there that are willing to listen to us every week. It keeps us motivated. It keeps us strong. We're going to push for that 500 download. That's the next milestone. Tell your friends. Invite them to check out the podcast on Podbean or iTunes, whichever platform they prefer. Thanks to Podbean for giving us an awesome platform and allowing us to get onto iTunes. That's absolutely amazing as well. But most importantly, it is you, the listener, that has been incredibly dedicated to the things that we've been doing. So thank you. When we hit 500, I'm going to say it now, we've got something very special planned. So encourage your friends to jump on and take a listen, and hopefully we can get to 500 relatively soon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest here, and I'm not embarrassed by this either because, of course, we're just a group of 3 friends that, just want to collaborate, get together, and talk about something that we enjoy doing, that we love doing, of course. And I know I sound like a broken record because I've mentioned this here and there, I don't know how many times on this podcast, but it kind of breaks my heart that none of you out there want to interact with us. Please go over, and I promise you I will not mention this at the end of the episode. Please go over to geektavernproductions@gmail.com. Again, that's geektavernproductions@gmail.com. Stop by there, email us so we can listen to you guys, so that we can read your message over the podcast and interact with you guys.
Absolutely.
Really like to start
but wait, there's more. We at Geek Tavern Radio have started a Discord channel. So if email isn't your thing and you'd rather just text us, you can jump into our Discord channel and have a conversation with us there. We could even have voice chat and play some games together. So I encourage you guys, the link is going to be in the show notes. It's a permanent link. All you'll have to do is click and jump into the channel. But please, please, please jump into the Discord and chat with us there as well.
Exactly.
Very well said.
So I wanted to start this week off with a game that has always been near and dear to my heart. Destiny is one of my favorite games. I actually started playing Destiny 2 before we started podcasting. Bundy was letting me play it on his Xbox, and I was using my profile. I logged in and everything. Something really cool. They had some nostalgia moments in that game at the beginning. If you had played the old thing, it told you the dates that you completed certain activities, and then like when it showed your raid progress, it told you your first raid team, which was incredible to see. Like I saw folks in there that I used to play those games with, and I'm like, man, I wonder how they're doing. You know, it was one of those things. It's like you had a friend from high school or a friend from college that you're like, man, I wonder how they're doing now. And that's kind of how it felt in that moment. But anyway, we're talking about Destiny 2 today because Bungie has announced that they are going to try to solve the shader controversy. And for folks that don't understand what's going on with Destiny shaders, in the original, an armor shader changed your entire armor set to one specific solid color, so everything matched, right? But in Destiny 2, they changed it so that Mike Bundy, correct me if I'm wrong on this.
Yeah.
Each individual armor piece can have a different shader.
Yeah. The helmet can be a different shader. Your gauntlets, your torso, whatever they call it, and your legs. And your cloak or whatever the extra piece of armor is. So it's 5 different ones, if I remember correctly.
So they're single use now.
Yep.
So when you apply that shader to that armor piece, it stays that until you apply a different shader, correct?
Yep.
Okay, and that's the big controversy, because these shaders are a little bit difficult to come by, from what I understand.
Certain ones.
Certain ones are challenging, but people really want that Destiny 1 mechanic back so that their entire body looks the way that they want it to.
Yeah.
And Bungie has announced, and they don't have a solution yet, but they announced in their weekly blog that they are working on a solution so that folks can have that Destiny 1 shader experience. And to me, that shows that they're listening to their community.
Right.
That and their player base is dropping like crazy. Some of the biggest Destiny streamers are abandoning the game and moving on to other content because there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Right.
They're
and
probably
there's a frustrated community.
Yeah, they're probably jumping, all jumping ship to something like Fortnite, which has gained extreme popularity. And this is just a little, tidbit here, but and I don't want to get off topic, but I wouldn't be surprised if Fortnite became one of these big one of these big, huge esport games.
I would say that it's almost already there. Every time I turn on my PS4 right now, I swear there's at least 2 or 3 of my friends playing it.
Is it free to play?
The multiplayer, yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm willing to get into it if you guys are willing to get into it.
I don't own a PlayStation 4.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry. But,
thanks for reminding me.
So a lot of people are just getting real pissed off at Destiny 2 because of the shading. It doesn't look correct whenever I'm trying to understand exactly.
Yeah, so each individual armor piece has a shader that you can apply to it, right? So like if you want a black piece of armor, for example, and you want your whole body to be black, you have to get that specific black shader for each armor set.
Oh.
So
and you have to get 5 of that same specific shader because not all shaders are the same.
Right.
Like you might have a black, blue, and red.
Yeah.
And you'll get a drop of a black, green, and red.
Right. And in Destiny 1, there were hundreds of these shaders. So I'm assuming that there are hundreds of them in Destiny 2. And the big problem is that they are purchasable through microtransaction boxes.
Right.
So that's where the big controversy is coming in, because
which only some of them are available that way. Like the other ones you can get from your clan or your what the hell are they called?
Your clan rewards?
Like the New Monarchy and
your faction.
Your
faction.
Yeah.
Some are from that specifically. So if there's, you only get the faction-based colors from their missions and their drops. So,
question.
Yes.
Are they repurchasable like they were in Destiny 1? Do you remember how you could go to that kiosk and that once you've unlocked it, you have it forever?
I don't believe so.
Wow, that's a big change. So that's probably why people are really upset about it. They should probably just bring that back.
Yeah, I mean, the old system needs kind of to be back because, it's not once you have one that you can go access it at all. Basically, if it's one that you can buy, that one person sells, a rare one every week or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's about it. The rest you literally just get from drops from wherever they may be.
So that's crazy. It's good to see, though, that they're listening to their community. And it's good to see that they are moving forward to try to remedy that problem. I would assume that comes in their next big update, which usually comes in like the spring. They usually do a big whole game overhaul kind of thing. I'm not sure when that next DLC is due to release.
I'm not sure. I haven't even touched the other one.
It could be fixed before then. It could be fixed otherwise. But like I said, they have that big spring release. And speaking of spring releases, I think that Mike Bundy has some news about the God of War series.
Yeah, so it's no secret that if you've ever heard our original episodes, our first episodes, we used to kind of have let's say a joke segment, haven't lived until blank or whatever.
Man.
So one of the original ones was I had never played any God of War game. Currently on my YouTube channel, Mike Space Bundy, you can see me going through the first one currently. I'm really hyped for this new one. It looks pretty crazy and awesome.
Well, I mean, we just talked about this last week too.
Yeah, because they I forget exactly what we talked about, but just PS4 releases, yeah.
Yeah, the PS4 releases, and I mean, for once, it's exciting to like hear and know that we're actually going to begin some PlayStation releases. Not that we have become bored of the Nintendo Switch, because trust us, everybody, I think it's a clean sweep with this 3-person consensus. We all love and adore the Nintendo Switch, as you all know. But of course, I'd like to start getting back in my PlayStation. And the one thing that has been so lackluster about the Sony news is the fact that there's no release dates. And that's, of course, what you're getting to, I feel,
right.
on the God of War.
Yeah, it was literally like the day or 2 days after we recorded, Sony had released a new trailer for God of War. And at the end of the video, it had a new release date. So that release date is April 20th of 2018. So it's not that far away. I'm pretty excited. I really got to hammer down the old playing of it, but hopefully I can get them all done by that time. I'm not sure if I am, but the collector's edition looks insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
It has like a 9-inch, statue, and it's $150. It's kind of pricey, but
yeah,
I'm pretty tempted, to be honest.
And I mean, I think the one good thing about this, Bundy, is I don't think you need to work. I mean, you got, I think, plenty of time, because the first original God of War games aren't really that long. So I don't know if you feel like you need to get through all of those to understand Kratos exactly and his story and the all the mythology, of course, surrounding.
Yeah. I mean, I probably don't have to, but.
No, certainly not. And I think that's one of the things that's going to benefit with this game, too, is the fact that it's going to be a game where you can pick it up and you don't necessarily need to know exactly everything from Kratos' past. And if I'm understanding correctly, this is, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is actually a sequel. It's not necessarily a straight up reboot. Kratos is carrying on his the shackles that he carries with throughout the rest of his life, the fact that he's killed his own flesh and blood from the very get-go, from the very first God of War. But I really like it. I feel like the story is going to be very strong in this game. In that latest trailer, you can hear the voiceover of the lady. I don't know if that's Kratos' new wife. I have no clue who it is. And by the sounds of it, that this definitely sounds like this is, his son. And it sounds like Kratos is trying to, or for many years, he's been trying to hide the fact that he is a god, or, part god. And it honestly seems like he's trying to stay away from anger itself, because it just seems like there's going to be some really good character development and just story being told in this father-son relationship. I'm really excited for it. I mean, the story, it's got me hyped up, because I am a story type of guy. I mean, they sold me just on the gameplay alone.
Yeah, for sure. So next up, we have Big Shocker.
Big shocker.
We have some Nintendo news. I'm going to pass it to Shill for this one, because I don't know much about it myself.
Oh, well, there's not much to it. But so it's a little bit of a somber note for Nintendo. It's their first defeat in the mobile gaming area. They have decided that they are ending the Miitomo service, which, Mike mentions, big shocker. Nobody played that game. I think people got hyped about it the week it came out, and some folks got up to like 100 friends on it and were constantly grinding through the content, but there's nothing there.
Yeah, I mean, there was a brief moment where we played it. There's a few people in the local area that we all added, and I don't know, it was okay, but I don't mobile games, so
Miitomo was just this neat little social. I think Nintendo was trying to build a social network.
Yeah.
Right. So it asked you these like little questions, like what's your favorite food? What's your favorite color? There was a little bit more depth to it than that. Some answers you could type out a longer response, like I think 140 characters, tweet length worthy stuff. But, it didn't catch fire.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something that was ever really going to last. Super Mario Run is still getting updates and still getting content drops.
Yeah.
And that's not a free game, whatever.
Right.
But Miitomo was their first adventure, and I think it was just the dipping their toes into the water, and it's ending now.
Yeah.
So, big surprise.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a few years, since it came out. So, it was the height of the Wii U, basically. I remember that's around the time I got one. And so, yeah, not a big shocker.
Yeah. Bud, did you ever play Miitomo?
Yeah, I was about to say this. The farthest I got with Miitomo was just enjoying it, making my character, answering those questions, and that was it.
Yeah, seems like that was the extent of most of our playing of that game.
Yeah.
It's not like Nintendo's other mobile games. Like Animal Crossing is doing really well for a free game that has microtransactions in it. And I'll tell you this, my fiance Adriana plays that game every single day. She loves Animal Crossing to death. And she has not once spent money on that game.
Right.
And she has continued to collect her leaf tokens, and she doesn't even spend those either. She's got like 800. It's crazy the amount that they give you. And it's a Japan type of thing. I was talking to a guy that worked in game development not long ago, and he said that Japanese games like that with the microtransactions are very, very rewarding when you're playing them initially, because they want people to get used to using the leaf tokens, right? They want the in-game currency to be hooked to a microtransaction eventually. So they develop the game to give you a ton of these tokens. And then when you use them all up, you're like, oh man, I got to spend $10 and get these leaf tokens, right? And that's the way that Japan does it. They're very rewarding. And, with the way that the handheld gaming is popular over there, the 3DS was immensely popular, the Switch, and mobile games are incredibly hot over there too. If they didn't have that initial reward system, they probably would not work the way that they do in the US. Candy Crush restricts you almost immediately.
Right.
That's Candy Crush is not a big success in Japan. So
no.
Yeah.
Which I'm kind of surprised on that too, because this isn't. I don't know. It just seems like, Splatoon 2 being one of the latest examples, but just a pure good example of this. Japanese culture is into this cutesy, quirky type of stuff, and Candy Crush gives that type of vibe, I guess. I don't know. It just kind of surprises me that Candy Crush, doesn't make it. But then again, I really don't know how or if those type of like puzzle type games are really that popular in general in Japanese culture.
Right. All right. So with that said, it's been a little bit of a slow week, I'll have to say. There wasn't a whole lot of new news out there, but I want to jump into our weekly segment now and talk about what are you buying, what are you selling.
What are you buying? What are you selling?
I'll start. So this week, I haven't bought anything this week. I'll be fair and honest, but I did pick up one of my older games, and I'll talk about a game that I'm contemplating getting. So I picked up Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire again. Omega Ruby specifically.
You would.
Of course I would. I can't stop playing Pokemon. It will never end.
I still haven't finished Moon. Or Ultra Moon.
I finished that, and I've got to move on to a different Pokemon game.
Yeah.
Of course, I did find one too that I'll about after. But Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are great games for the 3DS. Probably the best Pokemon games on the 3DS. The cool mechanics that they did for the competitive scene was great. The dex nav thing where you can go from route to route and it actually tells you what Pokemon are on that route on the bottom screen. That was amazing. I'm going through it doing that process again, catching everything on the route. I'm going the collector method on this time instead of just a pound through and grind out the game. But yeah, I picked up that game. So much nostalgia is wrapped around it for me. My brother and I used to play the original Ruby and Sapphire. Was really my first dive into Pokemon, what it truly is with the trading and battling mechanics, right? Because I had it for the original Game Boy and stuff, but like I wasn't interested in actually completing the Pokedex or actually battling with my friends. All I ever wanted to do was figure out how to get unlimited rare candies with a Masingo glitch.
Yeah.
Like that was it. And catching Mewtwo with a Master Ball and getting infinite Master Balls. That's the only thing I ever did with Pokemon on Red and Blue. But and then I got this this ROM that I downloaded. So it's a hack, whatever. We can dive into a conversation about the legality situation and those things. But it's a fan made game of Fire Red, and it's got a difficulty bump, and the Pokemon are entirely different. So it's got all of the Hoenn Pokemon in Kanto, right? It's got all 386 Pokemon obtainable in the ROM version. So there are evolution tweaks that are different, but you can complete the Pokedex without ever trading with somebody. That's really cool. And I've been playing that on my SNES Classic that I hacked. So that's just been an absolute treat. 2 games that I'm thinking about buying. I see that Celeste is now out for the Nintendo Switch. That looks incredible. Looks like a great platforming journey. I loved Ori and the Blind Forest for PC and Xbox One. Incredible game, beautiful soundtrack. The $20 or $25 that they charge for that game is worth it for the soundtrack alone. But the story progression goes along so nicely, and the world is so big. But Celeste looks like it's going to be one of those experiences as well. So the other game I'm thinking about picking up is that Pokemon Crystal for the Virtual Console on 3DS came out this week, and I'm really debating on whether or not I want to get that. They have the Celebi event in it; it actually works, so I might pick that up. I'm not sure. I might get overburdened with some Pokemon.
I've never played that version.
It's different.
Yeah,
it is different. The story is different.
I might actually have to then.
The way that the legendary dogs are introduced to you, Suicune is a static encounter in the game, right? So like you go into the Tin Tower and you battle Suicune and you either capture it or defeat it, and then that's it. It doesn't roam like Raikou and Entei do.
Oh.
So that the story revolves around Suicune.
Huh.
And then I think that Ho-Oh is locked until you catch all 3 dogs.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So that's a difficulty bump.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, the Celebi event is now in the game. So you get the GS ball by whatever means you get it. And then you take it to the Ilex Forest Shrine and you put the GS ball and Celebi appears and you battle it. You can actually end up getting a shiny Celebi if you soft reset or do the shiny glitch in that game. And then you can transfer it up to Sun and Moon.
Wow.
Yeah. Selling wise, I'm disappointed by the SD card that I got for my Nintendo Switch off of Wish. I got burnt, it could be something that I'm doing wrong, because I was trying to transfer my content from my previous SD card, but I currently can't download any of my games onto the SD card. They get to like 99% and then they error out.
Yeah, it's
so
very
that's what I'm selling. Yeah, that's what I'm selling. I'm mad about it.
For me, the other day I was watching a guy that has become a good friend over on Twitch. Actually, that's a new thing for me. But his name is Ross. He is from overseas somewhere. I'm not sure where. But him and a couple other good friends, Darby and Corey, they were all playing a game called Human Fall Flat. It's on, I think, every console basically, but they're playing it on PC, and it's like an open sandbox game where you have to figure out these puzzles, and it's just hilarious the way that the game plays, and the characters interact with all these items in the worlds. So actually, thanks to a certain person, I acquired a copy of this game, and I can't wait to play it with everybody that's been playing it. So that's one thing I'm buying. Another thing I'm buying is actually a game that Shill just mentioned, is Celeste. I actually already bought it. I got to download it because I just took my SD card out, which brings me into what I'm selling. I'm selling the same thing Shill is, because my SD card does not work either. So we have to figure that out. Like Shill said, we don't know if it's something we're doing, or it might just not be a fast enough SD card. I don't know. Bud, how about you there?
I've been on this RPG kick. I mean, I've always enjoyed RPGs, not saying it's the go-to genre for me all the time. I'm typically in, of course, an action adventure type of player. But yeah, so between, playing a little bit of Secret of Mana on my SNES Classic, it's gotten me into considering getting one of the newest RPGs to come out and be ported over to the Nintendo Switch, and that's Lost Sphere. And I'm hearing a lot of great things. I hear it pays homage to a lot of the old classics, the games that made RPGs what they are today. So I'm really, really, really up for acquiring that, buying that game. As for selling, man, I will tell you what, I just as of lately got into my SNES Classic again, and there's just a bunch of games on there that just actually more so just irritate me. Man, why is F-Zero on this? I mean, I understand
because F-Zero is amazing. What are you?
I don't know, man. There's just so that I just feel like there were so many better games, and I know, I say it all the time, but why wasn't Zombie Ate My Neighbors on this freaking game? Why was it not on this NSES Classic? It baffles me.
Well, lucky for you, there's a way.
It's not legal, so we're not condoning it.
Yeah, not condoning it.
And we won't even speak of it
right
from this point. But yeah, that is what I'm buying.
That I already admitted that I did.
Anyway, so we're going to go to our next weekly segment as of late, and it is the top 5.
Top 5!
And this week, we got a personal favorite of mine. I can't speak for the other two guys here, but this is my first system I ever had, and that is the Sega Genesis.
I had a Sega Genesis too. I'm not sure if it was my first system. No, the original Nintendo was my first system, or the Game Boy. I don't know which one was first, but I had a Sega Genesis for a number of years, and I played a lot of games on there.
Yeah, it's
and you and I played a lot of the stuff together when we were kids.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest reasons. Like, not even just you, my cousin Kyle, we always played. That's what he had too, and more into that later. But I'm so hyped up. I'll lead this off. My number 5 is going to be a game. Man, I still play this today. The Lion King.
Classic.
Man,
it's different on the Super Nintendo.
Is it?
I think so. It's a different game.
I'm going to look into that. But we're here to talk about Sega Genesis. And this game, I went to the theater to see The Lion King. And I don't remember actually going to the theater. I know I went to the theater, though. And, this game is difficult, but doable. The Stampede level is just ridiculous. So good. I can't even tell. If you've never played this game, find a way to play it. It's amazing.
I think that my favorite part of that game is that all of the music in the game are scores from the movie.
Yeah. The Can't Wait to Be King level.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I think that's my favorite part of this game, is that they have all of the Disney songs digitized into the 8-bit themes on the Sega Genesis. Bud, what's your number 5?
My number 5, and yes, I did mention this a couple weeks back when we were doing the SNES top 5. It's Mortal Kombat 2. And reason being why it's making my top 5 on this console, of course, is because these two systems, the SNES and Genesis, of course, respectively, were all in the same generation. But Mortal Kombat 2, I don't know what it was, but I enjoyed it a hell of a lot more on the Sega Genesis. I think the reason being is because the first time I got introduced to the Mortal Kombat series, that being Mortal Kombat 2, was actually on the Genesis itself. And I mean, you don't know how many hours I, Spoon, and the rest of the gang put into that game, having mini tournaments, everything, and it was on the Sega itself. I think, me personally, I think that is the best time Mortal Kombat ever felt was on that console, was on that controller. Even though I like the SNES controller a lot better, there was just something about the layout of that Sega controller. So my number 5 is Mortal Kombat 2 once again.
So my number 5 for the Sega Genesis is a game that I don't know if either of you two have ever played. It's called Columns. It's a Tetris style puzzle game where you had to line 3 colored blocks in a row.
I think I might have played that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. The blocks are all straight line pattern. They come down in just like a straight line, and you can swap the different colors throughout the block.
Yeah.
So your objective is to get all of these 3 of a kind in a row, and you can combo it like crazy, right? Like I've seen people that play this game that can take a full board, like a full Tetris board or something to that extent, you know?
Yeah.
And just by one block placement, things start falling and it will clear the board for them.
Wow.
It's such a crazy chain reaction. It's such a cool game. I really love and hate those puzzle style games. Right now I have such a war with Tetris. There's so much rage. You know, if anybody sees my Facebook at all, like they get updates on my how much I still hate Tetris. Like I'm trying to break 100 lines and I just can't do it. My best is I think 79. That's where I'm resting in Tetris. But Columns is a great game. If you haven't played it for the Genesis, I highly recommend it. It's truly fun. Mike, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is actually a game that has already been talked about. Obviously, that means Mortal Kombat 2. So, my experience with Mortal Kombat 2 is I don't remember even the first time I played Mortal Kombat. That's how early it was. My cousin Kyle had it, and ever since he brought it over, I found a copy somewhere, or probably my mom did. And Bud, you speak of the hours that you put into this game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all you guys. It was very much the same for me and my cousin Kyle. Like, it just matchup after matchup. You know, we didn't have to trade off with anybody because there was only the 2 of us. But, you know, the only fatality that either of us ever knew was Katana's fan blade, where she cuts the other person's head off. We would just always try to hit that every time. Somebody was always Katana. So,
yeah.
And this is where my hatred for Baraka first started.
Baraka's my favorite character.
I hate facing Baraka.
Got such ranged attack.
Exactly. It's so bad.
Yeah, but he's slow. He's so slow.
Yeah, no.
Other than that up and down move that he does.
And that's all Kyle would do. Bud, what's your number 4?
Oh, that's the only thing I hate about Mortal Kombat 2. My number 4 is Sonic the Hedgehog series. I understand.
Classifying all in one.
I mean, number 1, I think, is the best. It's really hard between number 1 and number 2. I'm sorry, number 3, and I'm sorry, Sonic and Knuckles.
I never played 3 or Knuckles.
Really?
he asks you, really, like as if it was some blasphemous act. Really, Bundy? Really?
I might have played like 10 minutes of 3, but
Bundy, well, we'll just pass on.
You haven't lived. You haven't lived until you played Sonic and Knuckles. You don't know Mike Bundy.
I now have him on that thing that we talk about.
Yeah, exactly. But the whole series in itself, I understand this is, you know, Sega's poster boy, you know, their poster character. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy Sonic. Absolutely do, but it's definitely not the best game. I just don't care who you are, but it's not the best game for Sega. The best games on Sega, in my eyes, were the third-party games. Same as for the Super Nintendo, it's the third-party game. So I would say the Sonic series for my number 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so my number 4 went to the Sonic series as well, but it's actually a spin-off. Sonic Pinball is my number 4. Classic game. Pinball, it was incredibly popular when we were kids, and there's eras before us where our parents talk about the pinball machines that they had at all of the places that they hung out because they were that popular. Well, this brought it into a video game form with a beloved character, incredibly huge pinball levels. There were some areas where you moved to a whole nother part of the map and you tried to solve another puzzle by shooting Sonic into a specific spot, and if you failed, you went back to the previous part of the map, and it was incredibly difficult. And I spent countless hours playing that game.
Yeah.
One of my favorites for the console, I have to say. Mike Bundy.
My number 3 is going to be a game that I spent lots of hours on all of these games, but this one, man, I unfortunately had to, well, I didn't have to, but I traded my original cart away, which I shouldn't have. But it is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Hyperstone Heist. And this one, it's basically the same as Turtles in Time on the Super Nintendo. But, for some reason, they wanted to have a different title for the Sega. They didn't want to have it on both systems. So, that's where this one was born. Some of the stages, I think, were the same, but the story itself was different. In this one, Shredder and Krang ended up taking the Statue of Liberty or something because they're in New York. So let's steal the Statue of Liberty. And, so basically you had to make that come back and defeat Shredder and Krang and all of their goonies.
Yeah.
So I love, just love you could pick all 4 turtles, and it's just a great arcade game.
Absolutely. I played a little bit of it, and I mean, for the little that I played it, it was one of my old friends from back in the day that I would go over and play that side-to-side beat 'em up.
Right, yeah.
In which, if you're done,
yes, go ahead.
My number 3, matter of fact, is a side-to-side beat 'em up. Matter of fact, this is another game that I just have a lot of memories with playing it with Spoon, but it is Spider-Man and Venom Maximum Carnage. And it's that Streets of Rage Golden Axe type of game where, of course, it's just a side-to-side. You progress more or so to the right, but you got enemies coming from above, left and right, down below, and it was just a really fun, great game, and I really think it did a great job as well while you're playing it to emphasize on Spider-Man and Venom's abilities, but again, it was just a really fun beat 'em up and challenging, in fact. So mine's going to Spider-Man and Venom Maximum Carnage.
Well, that is an awesome number 3. You actually mentioned my number 3 in your discussion. Golden Axe is on my list. I loved that side-to-side combat. I adored that game. I don't remember a whole lot about it. I played it for countless hours because I loved how difficult it was for whatever reason. Those games that you get into. You love Enter the Gungeon. Bundy likes Dark Souls or whatever.
I don't like Dark Souls.
Okay. People like Dark Souls for whatever reason. No one likes Dark Souls.
I don't
like
hard games.
Yeah. So I loved the difficulty that I had with Golden Axe. I don't know if it's genuinely that hard today if I were to play it. But I'm talking, I was 7 or 8 years old on my Genesis and playing this game. It was one of the most challenging games I had played. So I love that. I have countless hours in it. Haven't really thought about it until I started compiling this list. But I'm glad that I had brought that up again. Bundy, what's your number 2?
Well, I had never actually played Golden Axe, so I might have to find a way to play that. My number 2, and honestly, this one could be number 1, but I'll get to, obviously, my number 1 in the immediate future. But my number 2 is a game that I still put hours in this game. I was playing it the other day. That is Aladdin. And obviously, we're doing the top Sega Genesis. So the superior version of Aladdin is on the Sega Genesis. This game is equally, if not more challenging at times than The Lion King. Like, they're both talked about really highly when you talk about the Sega Genesis. And, you know, you had the sword in this one. You didn't have a sword in the Super Nintendo. And, man, just hours trying to get past, you know, a lot of these levels. I've never beaten this game. The furthest I've ever gotten in this game is when you meet up with the genie for the first time. And honestly, I don't know what's after that game or that level. I've never looked it up. You know, we're going on a 25-year adventure right now. I'm gonna finish this darn game if it kills me.
You gotta do this. Edit this part out.
Don't.
You gotta do like. You gotta do a charity stream where you don't stop streaming until you beat Aladdin.
I know.
You don't stop. You don't eat. You don't drink. You don't sleep. You just play Aladdin until you beat it.
I don't know about that, but I will beat this game someday, and I still will not look up videos about it.
You don't eat. You don't sleep. You don't drink. You don't go to the bathroom.
I'm the CM Punk of not eating and drinking.
So, Dex, what's your number 2?
In all honesty, right on the list was Golden Axe. I know and I'm not just like, you know, I'm not having a hard time coming up with games. I honestly, that was my number 2. I know it's kind of silly, especially after I did had already listed a side-to-side beat-em-up type of game. As my number 3, that being Maximum Carnage, and then you, of course, Shill, stating that as your.
Oh yeah.
But Golden Axe is just one of those ideal games. When you say Sega, Golden Axe is going to be one of those top 10 games that somebody thinks of. 2-player game, side beat 'em up, but there was also like magic elements involved. I know that, and I remember the most fond memory I have of that game is the level where you get to, you know, ride on dinosaurs. I believe it was dinosaurs. It was like dinosaurs or dragons, some type of messed up creature. But again, Golden Axe, definitely.
Awesome. So for number 2, I consolidated these. I threw the Sonic series at number 2. I'll break it down a little bit. 2 is probably my favorite. Sonic and Knuckles is right after that. Then Sonic 1, then Sonic 3. I don't have as much as you know, some other folks do. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I will say that I enjoyed it more when I could play as Knuckles. When I took my Sonic and Knuckles cartridge and opened it up and put it in my Sega 3 cartridge on top of it, which was so strange. But, you know, what are you going to do?
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that is going to be missing in gaming.
I know.
With discs and whatever else.
You don't have the stories of playing L.A. Noire on 3 separate discs.
Right. Like,
you know?
Like, people are going to look back at, like, when we get to the PlayStation games, what do you mean you had to play Final Fantasy on 4 discs? Like,
yeah, right? It's like you got to a certain point of the game and it was like, insert disc 2. But he's absolutely right. My fondest memories of Sonic, other than playing it endlessly with Bundy here for forever, was that Sonic and Knuckles cartridge that you could take Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 and just put on top.
You could put 2 in it?
Yeah, you could put 2 in it, yeah.
Where have I been?
Yeah, you could put Sonic 2 in there and play as... I think you could play as Knuckles in Sonic 2. I think. I'm not positive.
I need to buy all of it, like legit buy these and do that.
Yeah. So anyway, you could put Sonic 2 on top of it. You could put all of that. And it was so crazy. It was a mess. You know, you bumped your console. You broke 2 games at once instead of 1. And it was the end. It was just the end. But those games have a special place in my heart. I love the Sonic series. I mean, we all played Sonic Mania. We all loved Sonic Mania.
So good.
So it's such an incredible series that gets undercut by some of the later decisions that Sega did with Sonic.
And they're still doing.
Yeah, that they're still doing with Sonic. But they really hit the nail on the head with Sonic Mania and that throwback, and I hope that shows them with its success that they need to stay in that direction instead of the one that they're pursuing.
Yeah, they just need to stay in 2D. So, all right, so we're at that time for the number one picks. My number one, I just have to go right off of what Shill was talking about. It is, now I only put Sonic 2 because, and this is going to fire up Dax a little bit here, but I don't like Sonic 1.
Really?
I don't like it at all. I played it the other day and I'm like, I just don't like Sonic 1. But anyway, Sonic 2 being my number one. You know, like Shill had said, we had hours together playing this game. And the funny thing that I always remember is, I swear to God, this is the reason you have glasses.
I mean, maybe.
Because we're talking like 2 inches from the darn TV. Even I, as a child, was like, dude, you need to sit back.
Maybe I couldn't see.
Maybe
that was the problem.
Maybe that was the problem.
Maybe I needed better glasses.
Okay, maybe that's what it was. But basically, this got number one because of the memories, you know, and it being multiplayer, you know, more interactive experiences. Even though
I was always Tails. He always gave me the short end of the stick. I mean, it was his console.
Yeah.
You know, so I wasn't super offended, but
yeah, because the 2-player. Let's talk about the 2-player version or whatever.
The challenge mode was awesome. I loved racing you constantly in the race mode that they had on that game. But the multiplayer where it was co-op, I hated it.
Yeah,
entirely.
Yeah, basically the memories is why this is number one for me. So Dax, what's your number one?
Brace yourselves. Are you bracing?
I'm braced.
Oh, we're bracing each other.
So, matter of fact, this is another game. And I know I've said his name for the third time right now, but this is a game that I had a lot of great fond memories with Spoon on. And we're going to have to get Spoon eventually back on the show. Miss that guy. However, this is a game, of course, that me and a good amount of us friends, our whole little town gang would get together and play. And it was on the Sega. And that was Konami's LucasArts Zombie Ate My Neighbor.
I just can't. I'm sitting over here looking at Bundy and I'm like, say Zombie Ate My Neighbor. He's gonna say it because it's a third-party game that was both for the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis.
Because it was that good. It was that good of a game. You cannot change my mind on this game. Like, generation favorite game. If I was at home playing that on the SNES, I was playing it with one of my brothers. If I was up at Spoon's place, I was playing that with him on his and his father's Sega. So that is my number one. I know you're all surprised. Hell, if you're rolling your eyes right now, guess what? Get over it.
Yeah, I hear you. So I chose for number one. I actually chose a game that was an exclusive to the Sega. I chose the Vector Man series. Vector Man was I want to say it was like a Mega Man clone. The levels were great. It had some cool features where you could do like a boost jump. You got a second jump the Mega Man didn't have, if I'm correct. Maybe he did in later games.
Yeah, I mean,
but you got this extra bonus jump. The levels were filled with secrets. I loved it. You could actually do like this cool secret at the beginning of the game. When it turns on, it gives you the Sega logo, and then you can play as Vector Man immediately. You can like shoot if you start to interact with the game, it freezes you at that Sega screen, right? And you can shoot blasts at the Sega logo, and it will shut off the logo. It will turn black, like the lights went out on it.
Oh my.
Yeah, and then like you could shoot at the ceiling, and then stuff would start falling at you from the ceiling, and you could blast the stuff that's falling down at you. It was just so cool. There's this little Easter egg that made it so great.
Wow.
But the levels were long. It got a sequel in Vector Man 2. I liked the first one a lot more, I won't lie. Maybe just because the 2 was a little bit too challenging for me. I'm not entirely sure. I don't remember. But that is by far my favorite Sega Genesis game. And I should probably pick that up and start replaying it at some point.
Yeah, I want to go back and relive that. I remember borrowing I don't remember if it was one or two, but you let me borrow one of them at some point, and I remember liking it. It's very vague, memory for me, but yeah, definitely deserves a mention on this list for sure.
All right, so I mean, with that said, guys, it's time to wrap it up. I mean, because the Royal Rumble's on right now. Mike Bundy, Shill, I know you guys are to get in on it. And I may more so have had it in the background behind me, have taken a few glances. And the Miz may have won the Royal Rumble.
I swear to God, if you spoil it.
However, everybody, hey, thank you for tuning in weekly for your dose of Geek Tavern Radio. Like we said right in the beginning of the show, we've had over 300 downloads in the past almost 6 months. We are very, very fortunate to do this and to be able to do this for you guys. And once again, thank you all for those of you who've been outspoken, for those of you who went and mentioned us, to friends, to family. We want to be those people that you feel you can have a conversation, whether you're going to work, whether you're coming back to work. Thank you. Thank you very much. And it is a pleasure. And we can't wait to do this for another 300 downloads, another 20 episodes and beyond. We are just excited what future has in store for us here at Geek Tavern Radio. Shill, where can they find you?
I am on Twitter at Shill_DS. You can add me on there, follow me on Twitter, tweet at me, and we'll have a conversation. Mike Bundy, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter at MikeBundy316, on Instagram at MikeBundy316, and on YouTube, as I mentioned before, Mike Space Bundy. Dax, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Dax Hastings, again, at Dax Hastings. And of course, you can go and stop by our email and drop an email off at geektavernproductions@gmail.com. That's geektavernproductions@gmail.com. Once again, can't say it enough, everybody. Thank you very much. I'm going to shut my trap so we can go on with our very lives. We will see you next week. Please make sure that you press start and you keep on gaming.